Hello everyone and welcome to Washington County Public Schools' second What's Up Doc, a forum with the students and the superintendent, in which the students can ask their superintendent questions. We have with us today Superintendent Dr. Clayton Wilcox. He is the former superintendent of Pinellas County, Florida, the former senior vice president of Scholastic, and the current, and obviously his most exciting job yet, superintendent of Washington County Public Schools. So to kick it off, before we get to any serious questions, Dr. Wilcox, I'd like to ask, what's up, Doc?
Only Abdul. This is up. You're up. Let's go. You ready to do it?
Okay.
All right. So why don't we talk as one of the folks?
Let me finish my carrot, please.
You kind of have to like the theatric moment here, don't you?
All right, Amanda, if you'd like to start us off.
All right, my name is Amanda Crable, and I am a junior at North Hagerstown High School. And my question is, how do you see social media being incorporated into the schools and other aspects of the school system?
Wow. Amanda, right now we have a task force that's really looking at that issue. I think many of us here in the school system think that social media has to become a more utilized technology, if you will. I think we need to have our young people have access to the resources, not just to poll other people, but to put their view out and to see how other people react to their view. It seems to me that the genie is out of the bottle, but we as a system are still struggling with how do we protect some young people from some of the odd side of social media. The bullying that once took place just in the hallways can now take place in a cyber environment that really is very troubling for a lot of us as adults who have a role as caretaker, because during the course of a normal school day, if we put one of you in an environment where your peers can just attack you anonymously, that's probably not a good thing. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that's not a good thing. So we have to take it a little bit slower, but I think what you'll see, even as this school year unwinds, a loosening of some of our restrictions around social media. I think those of you who come back to the school next year will see that we are making more technologies available to young people, particularly as it relates directly to instruction in the classroom. So, Amanda, that's a great comment.
All right, thank you.
My name is Chelsea Myers. I'm a senior at Williamsport High School. How do you think we should support and promote unified sports throughout the county?
Hey, Chelsea, help me a little bit with what you mean by unified sports.
Special Olympics.
Mm-hmm. I really think that, since we all kind of live and play in the same world, we ought to have opportunities where we can all play on the athletic field or play in various competitions together. So I'm hopeful that we will have more kids who have special needs engaged in sports and activities. I'm hopeful that what we'll see as a school system are lots of young people who rally around sports that all people can play. Not everybody can play football, not everybody can play varsity soccer or lacrosse, but there are a lot of lifetime games that everybody can play. I would hope to see an expansion of that, and I'd hope to see you as student leaders be the ones to kind of push us as adults into a world that is a little more accepting of others and makes everybody feel engaged and belong to the system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Hannah Castelline. I'm a junior at Williamsport High School. Could you tell us how the process works to get lights for our baseball and softball fields? Some of our players have to miss class in order to play the games, and the early start time eliminates some parents from attending because of work.
Okay. Hannah, when we look at that, we have to look at a system-wide response, not just a response to an individual school, which sometimes complicates things. But I would say that to the extent that there are athletic booster clubs at the school or the administration can begin to start that process either way by contacting us here at this building, making us aware of the need. There is a certain funding cycle. In early April, a request is going to come out from this building to all the schools to tell us what they need in order to make programs better and more accessible to kids. So there will be that opportunity. there are some other ways that I think people can go about that as well. One way would be to have the athletic director at the school become engaged in what's called the master planning process, where we're taking a look at each school over the summer and trying to determine what the field needs are, what the lighting needs are, what are some of the other needs that the school might have, so that we don't get into this position where we're doing one thing over here and another thing over here, and then after we've done the other thing over here, then we're saying, oh, we should have done that over there. So we're trying to think about that a little bit more, I think, in an organized manner. So ask your principal, speak to your booster club leaders, make them knowledgeable about the way to move forward is by coming to this board.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Swope. I'm a senior at South Hagerstown High School. And my question is, should the U.S. government be involved in deciding what students eat? How does this balance with our school lunch program in Washington County? And would you see franchises like Subway or Chick-fil-A in schools in the future?
Whoa. Wow. Okay, we've got like an afternoon, so I'm going to try and answer some of that. First, I would say, because we receive federal funds, free and reduced lunch funds, to support kids whose parents may have fallen on hard times or are really struggling to make ends meet, one of the things that happens is when you accept the money, you have to accept certain dietary guidelines, meaning that there'll be so many proteins, so many carbohydrates, other and food groups. Wasn't a very good answer, was it? And a wide variety of food groups are offered to the young people. So I don't know that we should be in the business of saying you should eat this or you should eat that, but I think we ought to be in the business about encouraging healthy eating and healthy eating styles. So we ought to put salads out. We ought to put fresh fruits and vegetables. We ought to put responsible carbohydrates out. We ought to put out fresh meat. Some of you might know about the controversy going on right now about the pink slime, which is finely textured ground beef. Again, we're always looking at those things as a school system, but quite honestly, I don't think you'll find us in the business of telling you what to eat and when to eat it. Rather, we'll say these are healthy choices. We hope you'll make them, because I think that's the responsible way to go about educating young people. The second part of the question is probably a little harder question, and that is, would we be open to some commercial vendors coming in and selling in the schools? That's real difficult, because when you agree to accept the money that funds the free and reduced price lunches, you really can't invite a competitor into those resources, to the food resources into the school. So many of you have noticed that like the Coke and Pepsi machines are not available to you at certain times of the day. That's because people don't want, first of all, there's a dietary issue with the amount of sugar, but people also don't want those machines in competition with the dollars that are available at the school to buy lunches. So bringing in Subway, bringing in Five Guys, bringing in somebody else might cause real problems that way. And then there's just this kind of funny social issue that I think some of us struggle with a little bit. And I know that there are people who say, Superintendent, that's not your role, but I do sometimes worry when some kids who have resources can bring something into the school on a consistent and regular basis that other kids can't afford. I think it tends to kind of illustrate a class difference that I think is kind of arbitrary and we ought not have. So, well, I don't think that it's our business to tell you what to eat. I think it is our business to kind of create an environment where everybody feels fairly equal, fairly safe, and that we provide calories that are responsible for young people.
So, Dr. Wilcox.
The man with a carrot.
If FBLA, for example, in my school wants to do a bake sale during lunchtime, so would that be considered competing against the cafeteria?
Well, I don't know in that case of somebody doing a bake sale, is that a competition? But I would say the other reason for us to kind of watch what comes into the school is because you as an individual student, or even some students may not know that they have certain dietary challenges. There are lots of kids with peanut butter allergies that can't even be close to peanut butter. Well, what if your mom makes a marvelous cake, but it's a peanut butter-based cake? Student walks into the school that day, and bang, there it is, the peanut butter, and they're on the floor, and it's an anaphylactic event. It's a challenge for us. So we do try to to watch that kind of thing. There are a lot of kids who want to have their parents do this kind of sneaky drive-through where they come by about noon and, oh, by the way, they just stopped at McDonald's, so here's a brown paper bag filled with McDonald's for them and their friends. We try to watch those kinds of things as well. So I know, seeing some of the smiles on your faces, I know some of you have benefited from that sneaky brown sack. But
Thank you.
I don't know if you really mean thank you. That was an awful long answer to a question, but thank you.
My name is Umar Mahmood, and I'm a senior at South Hagerstown High School. And I wanted to know where students can gain vocational skills in Washington County from somewhere other than Tech High.
Umar, that's really one of the challenges of our day. Right now, there are a number of places. For example, if someone wanted to be a teacher, they could go to North Hagerstown High. If somebody wanted to get really, I think, a fine background in building trades, they could also go to Boonesboro High, who has a tremendous. If somebody wanted to get a career started in agri-science, off they could go to Clear Spring High, where there's a tremendous program. And there's other places that have similar programs across this county. So there are lots of places where young people can go. The thing that I think we struggle with the most as a school system is how do we meet the needs of all kids in all places? Because in order for you, perhaps from South Hagerstown High, to get that background training, say in agri-science, you'd have to change schools, but all of your friends are at South. So how do we manage that kind of thing without making you make a choice that's really a challenge? That's balanced against our inability to financially support programs all across the county. So it's a tough issue for us, but one we're struggling with. And I will tell you at some point, this group or groups like this group in the future can help us by saying, here are the things that we want to do in school. A part of this today is just asking questions, but hopefully we'll get to a point where we have more of a dialogue and can begin to talk about, well, what can we do to make school a better place for you, rather than just asking some of these questions. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janice Edwards from Smithsburg High School. I'm a senior. And I was wondering if you could explain the rules and guidelines for bringing medications and health-related items to school. For instance, cough drops and other over-the-counter medicines is prohibited. We've never had these guidelines explained to us, and the lack of communication has prompted some students to break the rules, believing there's no justification.
Yeah. I'm not sure at the end of the day that even me trying to explain it is going to satisfy some folks, because I know I have a hard time explaining some things to my own daughter or my own son about rules that I think should be followed around our house. But let me try this by saying that, many young people want cough drops at school, and they think, well, if I just throw them in my purse or my bag, it's not harming anybody. But our policy is fairly clear, and it says that if you want those things at school, you have to bring them, put them into the health office or nurse's station, whichever you may have at your school. And then if you want them throughout the day, you've got to go back and ask for one, and they give it back to you. You have to have it seen. They have to see you take it, or eat it, I guess would be a way to say it. So our policy is pretty straightforward. If you want to bring something that's an over-the-counter medicine or a prescribed medicine, it's got to go through our health office. If, in fact, it's a prescribed medicine, meaning something you got via prescription after seeing a doctor, our nursing staff is going to want to know that your mom or your dad saw you take the first one at home and watched you, just to make sure there wasn't some kind of allergic reaction or something that took place that the school wasn't prepared to handle. And then you could bring in the rest of that prescription, and you could take it at regular intervals during the day. So our policy is clear. It may not make sense to some, but it's really designed to help us know what's in the school in case something goes wrong. We can say with some degree of certainty that, they weren't taking a non-prescription stimulant, or they weren't taking a non-prescription something else. So that's the reason behind it.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, some of you can follow up. If you think I'm just kind of like pushing something at you that's just the same old adult thing, you can push back a little bit, okay? You have the microphone.
My name is Rachel Redmond. I'm from Smithsburg High School. My question is about extended absences. If all of my teachers are willing to approve an extended absence, for example, I want to go on a graduation trip at the end of May, which is after all of my AP testing, why will I only be excused for 3 of those days? The only valid excuse is for illness to cover the other 2 days, and I think that the policy actually encourages parents to lie on behalf of their children to get those excused absences.
Wow. Board policy is clear. It is 3 days. The policy was put in place around vacations because we really thought, and it predates me, but it's something I kind of generally concur with, and that is, we want you here. You know, we think that what we do every day has value. We think that your being in class is going to serve you well down the road. Now, when you compare it to a trip to South Africa or to some other place, then we maybe need to revisit that. But right now, the policy says what it says. What I would say is I hope your parents wouldn't lie about it. I hope they wouldn't say you were sick, because I think, you know, anytime I tell a little white lie over the telephone or something and my kids are watching me, I know they think, well, you know, that's okay. And once you kind of start to drive that conversation about, well, it's okay to lie about this, then it's probably okay to lie about that and that. And pretty soon we have a whole bunch of liars running around, right? I hope not. But I don't think we should put you in that position. So, you know, it is something I think that we should look at on kind of a one-time basis and see. You're going to follow up. I shouldn't have encouraged you to push.
I just want to know if it's okay with the teachers, then why would it be such a big deal for us to be in school for those days? Because obviously they think that it's okay for us to miss those days. Like, we won't fall behind.
See, and that's a good question, and that's why I say it's probably one of those things that we should look at. Is there some level of review that we can take in place? But here's, at the end of the day, it comes down to this. The teacher may say you can miss their class, but they don't have the authority to say you can miss school. That's a board decision. So it's not a decision. I mean, to some degree, if all 5 teachers say you can go, that's fine. They can say that, but they don't have the authority to dismiss you from school. That can only happen here via the board, via the superintendent. But we ought to listen. If they're saying, well, you know what, I got 5 days going on and you're not going to get anything out of being there, or the value would be that you'd get more by going to South Africa, that's something we should listen to. Now, we should really listen to the second part about the value of going to South Africa, but if they say just being here for 5 days, towards the end of the year, you're not going to get anything, then I might want to ask them, well, why? What are you doing? Because if you're not doing anything that's worthy, why are any of the kids there? Why are we paying you to be there? So I think it's a difficult conversation, but one that should be had from time to time. We ought to make, I think, logical exceptions. The problem that we as a school system have is when we make a logical exception for one kid, there are 22,000 other kids who think, well, I'm a logical exception too. Maybe I shouldn't go. You know, right now we're dealing with, you know, many of you know we didn't have any snow days this year. You should all know that. We didn't have any snow days. Now, some of you might sleep in a couple of days and thought it was a snow day, but we didn't have any. That said, we now are faced with having school end and then a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday graduations. Well, there are some people who are saying, well, then just don't make us do this or do that, and we can't make the exception for the one, because how can we do it for one group of kids if we wouldn't do it for all of you? And there are some kids that exception wouldn't make sense for. So it's a struggle, but thanks for the pushback.
Let's like to point out that on the green slip, it's not just vacations that are listed, also college visits. Those are also included in the 3 days.
That's right. That's right. Because we want you here. We don't want you somewhere else. But I would also say that I'm not sure when the policy was last revisited, but that whole world of college applications is changing so fast, and the expectations for on-campus visits, that it probably is another one of those areas that deserves to be reviewed.
Can I ask one more small
Please.
question?
Please.
Would you be more willing to granting students more excused absences if they were willing to do the work while they were gone? Because unexcused means that you don't have the opportunity to make up the work that you missed, which makes your grades suffer, which is the penalty for having the unexcused absence. But if you offered more excused absences with the notion that we would make up the work, do you think that there would be more offered?
Well, I would want to have a lot of conversation with some people before I would say. But on a personal level, I think I would be more inclined to allow you more days if 2 criteria were satisfied. One is that you made up the work and that there was some way that you also could still take place in the classroom discussions and the richness of the instructional environment and what the teacher brought to the table. That might mean using social media. That might mean saying, you know, you're just going to take your iPhone and say, see you, see me kind of technology. It might mean that somebody is going to video record it, podcast it, let you see it later. But I think the other thing that would make me more willing, because we live in kind of a global society, is that if you're taking a trip to South Africa, you have some responsibility for recording some of what you saw in the other culture and bringing it back and sharing it, whether it's a small group or whether it's a class. That's what would make a lot of sense to me.
Thank you.
My name is Lindsay Himes, and I'm a senior at Hancock High. My question is, how do you balance financial consideration with academic opportunities for students?
There's a debate in education about treating everybody equally or treating people with equity. Treating everybody equally might mean that when we looked at how many students were at your high school, for example, one of the smaller high schools in the state, and we looked at North High, a mid to large high school in this state, that we would say, well, you know what? You only get the same number of teachers. That would be treating everybody equally, meaning that if there were 25 kids in a math class there, we'd give you enough math teachers so you could have that class. But the reality is, you're not going to have 25 in a calculus class at your school at Hancock. So we may have to overfund a position at Hancock in order to provide opportunities for you as students. And we might have to underfund opportunities somewhere else in order to make that happen, because there's only so much money. If we want to have great arts experiences at VISPA, we may have to not offer so much somewhere else. So it's a constant kind of tug and pull, push and pull, that we have about what do we want to offer at one school versus another school. What do we want to offer at Clear Spring versus what do we want to offer at Boonesboro? What do we want to offer at Boonesboro versus South? What do we want to offer at South versus North? It's a constant push and pull. There's a tension there. Oftentimes people think we don't get it right. I would say more often than not we do get it right, because if you go across this county, there are instructional opportunities in advanced math, there are instructional opportunities in advanced English language arts, AP classes all across this county. But I'll give you an example of one thing we can't do everywhere. We can't do IB everywhere. So we do it at one place. We do that at North. On the other hand, there are some things that we do at some schools, like the full complement of the vocational training industrial arts classes at Boonesboro that we don't do other places. So it's tough, but it's something that bears a lot of continual conversation.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jackie Hickson from Hancock High School. What do you think about existing or future community outreach programs for parents to help their children with reading, writing, or studying? And does the school system have a role in that?
Jackie, that's that's a tough question, because our mission is pre-K through 12th grade kids. But one of the things that we know, a lot of folks in this community, parents, adults, people who have exited whatever school system they went to, whether it was here or in Waterloo, Iowa, and have moved here, may not have all the skills that they need to help their kids in a 21st century instructional environment and economy. So we may have to do a lot more to help them to help their own kids. We also know that there are a lot of young people who are either by choice or by accident having children of their own before they're ready to have kids of their own. And in those cases, do we say to the young people that they can't go to school because they have a child? No, we don't here in Washington. We've created another environment where young moms can go to school and still have their children with them. It's not something that we think is a best choice, but it's certainly better than saying to the mom, no more schooling for you. So, I think we have a lot of responsibility. We have a lot of parents who never really thought about how to teach their kids to read. And so their young people come to school in pre-kindergarten with no letter-sound relationships. They haven't had some of the advantages that you have. You know, they don't look at an R and know that it makes that R sound. You know, they just don't see that. They don't look at a book page and see that all those little characters are actually words that add up to sentences that add up to stories. They just look at the pictures and say, "Oh, nice," you know. So we probably do have a lot more responsibility to help some families help their own children than we've taken on. But once again, our mission has historically been pre-kindergarten, actually kindergarten through 12th. And that's where we've spent a great deal of energy. So if you want to follow up, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I think what I'm going to ask Abdul to do is take us to a break, and then we'll come back in about a minute, 2 minutes, and we'll go at this again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Abdul?
All right, I guess with that, we'll have our break, and we'll get back together for the second part of our What's Up Doc session. Good questions, everyone.
Thank you. No.
Right.
We're back.
Yep. It looks like, Dr. Wilcox, you had some commentary to make on the pills in school policy.
Well, we were talking at the break, and you know, one of the young women said, you know, I'm old enough to take aspirin. I don't ask my parents if I can take aspirin at home. Why should I have to ask a nurse? And in fact, the comment was, it's degrading. And then another student told a story about a kid who took over-the-counter cough syrup to school and drank the cough syrup, so abused it. So for a school system like ours, with over 20,000 kids, 3,000 employees, we have some rules that really apply to that almost that lowest common denominator, the person who isn't responsible, because we live in a litigious society. And so if we said, oh, go ahead and, you know, this is the wild, wild west, do what you want to do. And some people did do what they wanted to do, and something happened to them, they would sue us. And so we take an official position along a number of things that some might feel aren't respectful. And, you know, I understand this. You know, Abdul mentioned at break that he maybe has taken an aspirin or two at school outside of the confines of the school nurse's office.
Don't tell anyone.
Well, we won't. Just a few thousand people that will watch the show. But, you know, it's true. I'm sure my own kids, from time to time, would do that. You know, I am sure that they would take an aspirin or take a cough syrup or something, not a whole bottle, but a cough drop. So, you know, I'm not here to endorse people breaking the rules. I know that it happens. I'm not naive to that, but I would say to each of you, as you think about that, or the people who are watching that, you have to think that as a system we have rules for a reason. They're not arbitrary. We don't sit here on Tuesdays during the course of a month and say, what can we do to screw up the lives of kids today? I mean, we don't think that way. All of us are trying to help you grow and learn and become productive adults. But oftentimes, what we do is focused on maybe not those of you who are really responsible. We're trying to think about, well, what about the kids who aren't responsible? How do we help control that? And sometimes we hit, sometimes we miss. That's why this forum is important, though, Abdul, is because we can hear from some young people who are responsible about what are more practical ways to make the school better. So we're ready for the next question.
All right, Elizabeth, if you'd like to start us off.
Hi, I'm Liz Fraser, and I'm a senior at Barber Income School for the Arts. Our question is, will Barber Income be getting additional facilities that will help expand our programs at the school and provide space for more practice rooms, but especially a cafeteria, because I know lots of parents have health concerns that we don't have a cafeteria.
You mean eating on the floor is getting old for some of you?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Liz, there's a lot of discussion right now in the community about what is that next step to make the Barber Ingram School all that it really can be. And we are talking to some different individuals downtown who have property about what it might take to either acquire or lease or rent some space. But we have to be fair to everybody who's downtown, so we can't just go make a deal with a friend of a friend of a friend. We've got to be fairly public about it. The other thing is we'd have to budget for it because space doesn't come free. So we don't have any dollars budgeted for any of that in this year's upcoming budget. So it's going to be some time down the road before we get there. I will tell you that earlier this week, I sat with our food service director and said, you know, let's review our practices at Barber Ingram. You know, are we serving the lunches in the best possible place? Are we taking advantage of spaces that are there? We've also just completed a new contract with the University of Maryland system at Hagerstown to lease classroom space, and we have more space leased for next year than we had this year. So hopefully we're doing the right things by the Barber Ingram School. We know that the number of students is going to increase there next year. It's not going to stay the same. So it is a priority with us right now.
And since you mentioned the community, we are wondering if there's a possibility that we could eat downtown during lunch, because it would be giving back to the community, because I know lots of the local places that we go to have closed down because they aren't getting enough business. But if we could go to lunch downtown, I think that would really help out a bit. But
so let's go back and revisit this part of the conversation about what's good for everybody. So what do you think people would say to me if I said, well, you know what? Oh, by the way, if you go to Barber Ingram, you have open lunch. You've got an hour off. You can run around. You can go wherever you want to have lunch. You think the kids at Boonesboro might not say, oh, we would like open lunch, or the kids at North or South?
There's a Subway near Smithsburg. I mean, I'm gone. I'm already
yeah,
gone.
You're So, for us, it's not a simple thing of simply saying, well, you know what, we're overcrowded one place, or we have some challenges, so let's open the barn door, if you will. But I would agree that we have to come up with some creative solutions to the challenges that we face. Simply maintaining the status quo is not going to work at Barber Ingram. And Barber Ingram is different by design than every other high school in this district. So, maybe we have to think differently about that. But it is an example of, if you do it at one place, then you're going to be doing it just about everywhere because, as you said, kids are responsible. Some kids can handle it really well. But I will tell you that the last thing I would want to be is the superintendent of a school system where a kid at Barber Ingram's got into a car, drove somewhere, and got hurt. So we have to be really thoughtful about that kind of stuff because we know those accidents happen in life. Some of our schools are dealing with tragedy right now today. So we have to be thoughtful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Shannon Giles, and I'm a senior at Barber Income as well. I know you did mention the budget, but with our school at full capacity next year, will there be an added administrative position or additional faculty to offer a larger variety of classes that we see at the other schools?
One of the things that we're looking at right now is through the budget process, do we have the right number of teachers that are given the number of students that have been accepted? My sense is that you'll see more full-time faculty, but you may not see as many adjuncts that are at the school. But we have to work through that because we have obligations to some of the adjunct teachers. We have obligations anytime we issue a contract for a new teacher. But my sense is you will see some change there. In terms of administration, we really haven't gotten to that point at this kind of time of the year. Will we have an assistant principal? Will we continue to have an administrative intern there? Might we try some other model where we might have a principal and an arts director at that school? So there's just a little water to go under that bridge yet before I can really say anything. But my sense is all of that will be settled out and the kids will know, the adults will know before the end of the school year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You guys are like the politest group of people. You say thank you to every answer I give. So we'll try this. We'll see if we can get something different.
My name is Paige Marshall. I'm a senior at Boonesboro.
Hi, Paige.
Hi. I was just wondering, what goes into decision making when you're looking towards renovating or rebuilding schools? Because, I mean, we've seen the new school for Antietam, which is the school for the bad kids. Whereas
don't go there now.
Well,
for kids that are challenged by the school
yeah,
environment.
In schools like Boonesboro and Smithsburg, like they perform really great on all their tests and everything, but we have leaky roofs and walls that are so thin that other classes disrupt us. So I was just wondering if there's anything, you could do that would maybe change that a little bit.
Well, let me see if I can get something other than a thank you. No. Next question. No. Paige, the question deserves a lot of conversation. We are looking at Boonesboro right now because we've spent several $1 million there in renovating a school that's old. And we're trying to, kind of come to grips with how much is enough. When do you begin to say that a new school is in order? And we have a master plan that I think says, yes, a new school is needed there, but we can't get there funding-wise until 2020 or 2021. Well, most of the kids in the school system will have grown and moved on by the time we get there, and then you take a comprehensive high school takes, 3 to 4 years to get from project stage to the doors opening. So it could be a real long time. But there are a number of young people who have begun to talk about it. There are a lot of adults who have begun to talk about the challenges there. Is there a way to accelerate that process? As I sit here today, I couldn't say a definite year, but I could say that the conversation has begun in earnest about the Boonesboro campuses. I know that there's a lot of discussion right now going on about the master plan for the facility, because what they're thinking about is there are some improvements that they want to do to some of the athletic venues, and if they do that, they don't want to do them twice. So there's a lot of conversation going on about Boonesboro, but to your colleagues, I think you're going to have to go back and say it's a long way off at best.
Thank you.
Quick follow-up to that. Do schools like Smithsburg and Boonesboro get less funding because they already do well?
In terms of?
In general.
In general? I don't think they get less funding, but I think it's not unfair to say that pupil-teacher ratios, which are about money, are sometimes lower where kids are struggling a little bit more. So it's more costly for us. But I will tell you, we never sit down and say, well, Smithsburg's doing well, we can take a unit because they're doing so well. We don't have that kind of conversation. The conversation we have is, well, the pie is so big, we've got to reslice it. Where do we need resources more? Now, if the consequence is that there was one teacher left at Smithsburg, then somebody might be able to make the case that you were penalized. But it wasn't a conscious decision to remove the unit from Smithsburg or to take resources from Smithsburg or Boonesboro or from North High or South High. And what's also interesting, is that each of the schools that you represent is outstanding in one area or another. It might have a great math department, great English department, might be a great school, might have a great fine arts department, might have a terrific, culinary arts program. Each school has something that's really a positive piece. So it would be real hard, I think, for somebody to say, well, that school gets all the resources because they're bad at everything. And that's just not true.
All right.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Leah Ballo. I'm a senior at Boonesboro also. And I wanted to ask if there's been any advancement towards using mobile technology in classrooms, like smartphones during class discussion, stuff like that.
Smartphones, no. We're looking at that. That's part of this whole conversation that we're having about technology, social media. We're looking at that. There has been an explosion of Android devices, iPads, laptops in the system. We have literally hundreds and hundreds of new units that are out there this year. But in terms of smartphones, now we've just not been able to crack that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Rachel, a senior at Clear Spring High School. Can you tell us how budget decisions and cuts may affect the schools and classrooms next year? We've heard that teaching and supervisory positions have been cut and consolidated. Is that true, and is the money being relocated?
In this building, we have cut 3 director-level positions and a coordinator. In addition to that, there were 18 teachers on here on special assignment. They were called curriculum and instructional support teachers. And we've eliminated those jobs. We've eliminated those positions. There will be no replacing of the administrators. But the teachers have been given the opportunities to reapply for some reconfigured positions, and those that were not successful in winning one of those slots have been reassigned to classrooms across the system. So no one lost their job out of this, although I do know some people have chosen to retire rather than go back into a classroom, and I understand that. Teaching is a hard profession. But so is administering and leading. They're hard. My thought is that we will actually have the same number, if not a few more teachers next year. Remember, we're a growing school district for the 12th consecutive year. We'll be up, but this year only about 100 young people, not many more. So because we have 46 schools, all 100 aren't going to go to one school or 2 schools, so it's real hard to say, oh, well, we'll add a teacher because there's 1 or 2 more kids at a school. But we'll likely increase the number of teachers a couple. And as I said, we'll be down a couple of administrators. So the money has, in fact, already been reallocated because those teachers have now been assigned or accepted duties. The board yesterday, which was Tuesday, approved our budgets going forward. And all of those changes can be found in our budget packet. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name's Evan. I'm from Clear Spring, and I'm a junior. Even though there are isolated situations, shootings have still been happening in and around schools, and sometimes result in the deaths of children. How safe are we in school, and what can be done to improve school safety while maintaining a sense of freedom?
Well, number one, you don't walk through metal detectors when you go into school. So we're thoughtful of, we don't want it to feel like a jail when you walk into it. We don't ask you to empty your pockets when you come into school, open your book bags and go through them. But many of you have noticed the front doors now are controlled via the front office. You can't, after a certain period of time, you can't just enter the school from any of the doors because they're magnetically locked. So we try to secure the outside of the school at a certain point. The other thing that we have talked about during my tenure here as superintendent, but I'm sure during Dr. Morgan's tenure as well, that we want every adult on every campus to know some of the kids so that every kid is known by an adult. And we hope that that builds a relationship where if you knew that a gun or a knife or some other kind of weapon was introduced on the campus, that you'd have an adult that you could go say, hey, you know, we don't want anybody to get hurt here. Such and such has something. I trust you'll handle it with discretion, and we'll go. So we do rely on you as students to tell us. But we also have said to our faculty and staff, they have to be much more observant today. They have to be thoughtful about when kids are, 2 or 3 days in a row seem more depressed, more moody, more this or angry than that. But we depend an awful lot on our eyes and our ears, trying to hear and see things, what we hear from you, what we see. We have made we have cameras in most of our schools so that we can look at common areas and see what's going on. We're very cognizant of the fact that, there are some kids today who are angry and are going to come to school because they feel they've been wronged and bring something. The good news for all of you is you live in a very safe community in the sense that we haven't had a gun on one of our campuses since 2005 that we knew about. It's not to say that somebody didn't somewhere sneak one on a campus or something, but we've not seen one, in a school since 2005. So I would say, as a superintendent who has children in the schools, they're safe places to go, or I wouldn't send my kids there. I wouldn't. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we ask this next question, I would hope that would be a message that you would take back to your classmates, that you are the first best defense against something bad happening on one of our campuses. Meaning that, if you know somebody is getting bullied or getting picked on, then they're probably ripe to do something that's out of the ordinary. So you ought to, one thing you could say is, hey, it's not cool to pick on that kid. Or two, you could say to teachers or somebody else in school, hey, somebody's getting picked on unmercifully, somebody ought to intervene. So you are our best first defense in that. And I hope you'll take that back to your friends, because all of you are influential kids or you wouldn't be here. I mean, you can talk to somebody, and then it's kind of like that tsunami, that geometric progression, that if you say it, other kids are going to repeat it. So I wouldn't want us to lose the opportunity to go back and be our own best protection. Sorry for the interruption.
My name is Jimmy Pressgraves. I'm a senior at Tech High. And my question is, it's a question, I'm sorry. There are 3 students at Tech High who I know whose home school is north. They're required to walk to north because they live within a 2-mile radius of the school. Yet the county says that all students are provided transportation no matter what. How is this fair to not provide them what everyone else is provided?
Well, the walk zones are such that if you just went to school at North and you lived, is it 2 miles or is it 1.5 miles? I don't know. Anyway, there's a state statute that talks about when we have to provide transportation. So we do provide transportation if they live outside that zone to North, and then they have to ride a second bus to your school. But what we can't provide is portal-to-portal transportation to our specialized programs from anywhere in the county, because we would end up having a series of taxi cabs or minivans just running all over everywhere, because if you think about it, there really isn't a home district per se to the tech center. I mean, kids are going to come from everywhere there, so we have to get them to, I think in the transportation parlance it's called kind of a spoke and wheel. We got to get you to a central place so we can get you to the next place. But that's the thought. I hope I answered the question, but maybe I didn't. I'm just judging by your...
Yeah, I was just a little confused. I'm sorry. And I had one other question.
Okay.
At my old school, we had a 15-minute lunch where it was just one shift where we could go anywhere we wanted. And we also had a 15-minute break. And Tech High actually has a 15-minute break throughout the day to kind of let us go in the cafeteria and just talk with our friends or something.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've already spoken about this, but is there any way we could, that there's any thoughts of doing that at all in this county?
I don't think there's any thought about giving you an open lunch where you can just leave and go to lunch. I really don't think that that's something that's going to happen in the near future. Partly because some of you live in communities that are fairly far out, and there just aren't that many options close by to the schools. Others of you perhaps go to school in a neighborhood where there just isn't a lot of fast food or quick food available, and so I just don't think there's a lot of chance for that. I do think that there is this. I think there's a chance within any master's schedule to build a common time in where young people can go and talk and kind of carry on in the way that you want to. The problem that I see as a former school principal is there is some truth to that old biblical adage that talks about, idle hands are the devil's playground. I mean, if you have 1,000 kids on a campus and they've got nothing to do for 15 minutes, there is a high likelihood somebody's going to find something to do that you don't want them to do. And it might just be go up to somebody, push them, shove them, intimidate them. So a lot of times schools made a decision years ago to move to these 4x4 schedules, not for the holiest of reasons, but for this reason alone, that there were fewer passing times in a 4-period day than there was in a 7-period day. Because they didn't want you out in the hallway, hormones are raging. Now yours aren't, I know yours are all under control. But there are some kids who they're looking for something to do that's maybe contrary to what we would like to have happen. I know there are other schools like the ones in Washington who move for all the instructional reasons, but that whole issue of just unsupervised time gives a lot of school administrators, myself included, a little bit of nervousness. So I'm not sure we'd build that break in, but every school has the opportunity right now through their master schedule if the principal wanted to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lauren Barber, and I'm a senior at Tech. And my question is, as the number of applicants to Tech High continue to grow, what are the plans to address that growth?
Well, I've always kind of ascribed to this philosophy that if kids choose programs, we have to expand the program so the kids can keep making that choice. What's interesting to me is that when I look at some of the enrollments at Tech High, not every program is growing, but some are. There are some programs where the teachers are just kid magnets. Kids just want to be around them. They want to learn from them. It's a hot career, and so I think we're just going to have to keep expanding programs. What that may mean in the short term are there some programs at Tech High that are going to get spaced out, if you will. They don't have enough kids in them, enough interest in the program to deny other programs that space. So I think what you'll see at Tech High in the short term are probably some programs kind of going the way of choice. People don't choose them, so they go away. Other programs will expand. I think there may come a day that some of the programs that are currently on the Tech campus that are really wildly popular will be offered in other places like Boonesboro, Clear Spring, North High, or South High, so kids can make a choice that is in fact closer to home. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me ask you guys a couple of questions, and because the microphone kind of passes around, you can choose to just hand it on or answer a second question, if you will. But you can't go on all day because I'm getting told that we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left.
And I'll have to conclude with my own question.
And the rabbit here has to has to ask his question. And for those of you who didn't watch cartoons, you got the joke right at the beginning. What's up, Doc? And
okay, I was making sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure you all got it because otherwise I was too old and the oldest one in the room. So here's what: if you're a senior and you've made plans for going off next year, or you're close to making plans, would you just say, I'm from Williamsport, I'm from wherever you're from, and say, and I'm thinking about going to the University of West Virginia, and studying architecture. If you're a junior or somebody who hasn't made that plan yet, and you want to give a shout out to a teacher who's done a great job at your school, or if you're a senior and you want to do that, why don't you do that? I mean, you know, there are some teachers who have made a big difference in everybody's life. I'll give you an example. I am probably sitting in this chair at this moment because of one teacher, a guy named Jim Zimmer. And he was a PE coach. But he saw something in me that I didn't. So if you want to give somebody a shout out because they saw something in you that you didn't, you can. Or you can just tell us what your college or university choice or your career choice might be. If you're going to go join the service, I'd love to know that, hey, I'm off to the Army or I'm off to the Navy. If you're off to the Joffrey, tell us that. Okay? Can we do that? Can we start on this side since that's where the microphone is? Tell us.
All right, well, I go to Tech High, and I'd just like to say that it was probably the best decision I've made so far in, like, my future. I've learned a ton. It's a great school, and it's growing, which is making me happy. And I'm in the cosmetology program, which kind of cuts off when you stop and get your license. But I'm going to be attending HCC in the fall for 2 years, and then I'm going to be going to university. So, you know, I'm continuing my career.
All right, thank you for that. We'll let you pass that on.
I go to Tech High. I'm in the computer repair networking program, and I'd like to thank Mr. Long. He's my tech teacher for doing everything he can for us. And I plan on going to HCC and then further to Maryland State for IT and computer repair.
Outstanding. And you said you have 3 jobs right now and high school.
Correct.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I go to Clear Spring. I don't really have a teacher specifically that's helped form me who I am, but all the teachers that I've had have helped me to realize what interests me and what career path that I'm best suited for.
That's terrific. Helping with some guidance. That's great.
I'm from Clear Spring, and I plan on attending either the College of Charleston next year or University of North Carolina, Wilmington.
Outstanding. Thank you.
I'm Leah, and I'm going to Towson University next year.
Thank you.
I'm Paige. I'm from Boonesboro, and I'm going to be attending Penn State Mont Alto for 2 years, and then I'll be transferring to University Park to obtain a degree in nuclear engineering.
Oh, outstanding. Thank you very much.
My name is Shannon. I'm in the dance department at BISFA, and I'll be attending Shenandoah University next year for dance education. And we'd like to give a shout out to our administrative intern this year, Mr. Campbell, for taking us here today and for being such an asset to this year. It's been a difference at our school.
Thank you.
I'm Liz. I'm a senior at Barber Income, and I'm going to Shenandoah University also for arts management and theater. And I'd like to give a shout out to Miss McCarthy, my math teacher that I've had every year at Barber Income.
I'm Jackie. I go to Hancock. In the spring, I will be attending Salisbury University in Ocean City. So that's really exciting. I'll be majoring in elementary education.
My name's Lindsay, and I'm from Hancock. I plan on attending HCC in the fall and possibly transferring.
My name is Rachel, and I go to Smithsburg. My first choice is University of Texas in Austin, and I plan on double majoring in math and Spanish.
I'm Janice. I'm from Smithsburg, and I plan on going to Salisbury University in the fall to major in nursing.
I'm Umar from South High, and I've been interested in studying at Syracuse University and studying biomedical sciences.
I am Stephanie from South High. I'm going to Towson University in the fall, and I plan on being a neonatologist.
My name is Hannah, and I go to Williamsport. I'm not sure where I'm going yet, but I am planning on majoring in either English or physical education to become a secondary education teacher. And I'd just like to give a shout out to my AP World teacher, Mr. Barron, because he's pushed me to do more than I ever thought I could.
That's great.
I'm Chelsea. I'm from Williamsport. Next year, I plan on going to Davis and Elkins to play soccer. I want to major in biology and minor in chemistry.
I'm Amanda. I'm from North. I'd really like to give a shout out to all the teachers in the IB program because they are all so wonderful and caring.
Well, thank you. Okay, it brings us to you. You were going to ask a question, but you could maybe tell us about your plans too.
All right, I'm Abdul Latif.
I'm planning on double majoring probably in bio and religion, and I'm not sure where I'm going yet.
All right.
All right. My question is that, as you know, I'm currently working on a proposal for student voting rights. So I'm wondering, what do you believe would be categories of business in board meetings that the student member should have the right to vote on? And just to explain to everybody what that means, as the student member on the Board of Education, I have what's called a recorded vote, where I can voice my opinion. However, I cannot give an actual vote on any issue whatsoever. I can only voice my opinion again. So what categories of business do you think a student board member should have the right to vote on?
Yeah, it's a great question, because it'd probably be easier to say the things I think you shouldn't be able to vote on. For example, personnel actions, those things that affect the livelihood of teachers, support staff workers, administrators. I think there are probably some areas where you'd be conflicted, because if we talked about grading policies or practices from a policy level, that wouldn't be a place. But certainly there are issues that we've talked about today. The use of social media in our schools, the use of cell phones, the carrying of non-prescription medications. Those are all things that I think a student voice is important to and ought to vote, be able to be counted on. There are some other areas. We're talking about some issues related to dress code and the sense or nonsense of some of the policies that we have around student apparel and dress wear. I think you ought to have a voice in that. But as you know, I'm the superintendent of schools. I don't have a voice. I don't have a vote in some of those things. So I would say, if you're not successful in securing this right along some area, what you have to do is say to your successor and during the balance of your term that you do have a voice and that you want to make sure that the board understands that voice. And so you have to offer your opinion relative to dress code, prescription medication, non-prescription medications, things like that. So you've probably not got me in trouble with my seven bosses, but other than that, I think we're all good.
All right.
All right. Well, I want to thank each of you as students for coming to What's Up, Doc. Hopefully, next year we're going to do this 3 times. Those of you who are juniors, I hope to see you again next year through your either student government or through some other placement at the school bringing you here. To you seniors, I wish you nothing but the best of luck. As you approach graduation season, be smart, be safe, and do the right things and stay connected to your community. So thank you very much. Have a great afternoon. My applause to all of you.
And thank you, Dr. Wilcox, for doing this. I'm sure all of us enjoyed and learned quite a lot. So everyone, let's please give a round of applause to Dr. Wilcox.
Yeah, thank you.
You can boo if you didn't say thank you after he spoke.
All right, thanks. Have a great day, you guys. Thank you.